It is also on Zoom. The number is 312-626-6799. Meeting number.
You gotta add that. Cue.
Meeting number 890-454-96770. We will open up tonight's meeting with general business, and the first on the agenda will be extension of 51 and 51 Chestnut Street special permit and site plan. Approach the desk.
Approach the bench.
Good evening.
Hello. Amanda Cavalieri with Carrier and Hellman. Here to request an extension for previously approved permit for 0 and 51 Chestnut Street special. That they had gotten approved for a special permit and site plan for a senior village back in 2018. And then due to COVID and construction costs and the time of materials and delays, it was not economically feasible to construct, so they're looking for an extension. It seems like things are starting to pick back up again, and they're starting to get some more construction costs and become more viable, so they're just asking for an extension for that permit.
Okay, so, Brian, quick question. I just had a thought. I mean, this has been extended so long. We cannot put a limit on it, on extensions?
That's a good question. I think in the case of this one, I think you may want to ask the lady in front of you any questions you may have, but I think you should expend it, because they need to get this thing out of the way one way or the other.
Right. I'm not thinking about not, but I mean, I was just thinking, I guess moving forward for the future of someone, because this has been going on quite a long time, so.
Yep. COVID
Yes.
really kind of slowed
Yeah.
things down a while,
Yeah,
so.
which is understandable.
Yep.
Okay.
But even if we could go for, I think standard has been 2 years in the past, to get a 2-year extension in order to allow us to get shovels in the ground, and then it'll be in motion.
Mhm.
And if in 2 years, for some reason, something falls through, that we'd be back either requesting an extension or closing it out.
Okay. Members of the board, anybody have any questions?
Make a motion to extend 0 Chestnut Street and 51 Chestnut Street, the 2 special permits and site plan modification for Chestnut Street Senior Village for 2 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is final Form H for 406 East Central Street, Planet Jeep.
Me again. So we were back in front of the board a while back to close the project out. There were a couple outstanding items that were associated with curb cut for the old access for Planet Jeep and the floodlights that are on the poles that are not the property of Planet Jeep. And we had gone back and forth trying to get correspondence going with the utility company, and we finally received a work order to get the lights taken down for the floodlights, but we just don't have any time frame. So the email was attached in the packet with the work order number, so it has been issued. But again, we have no idea. That could be, 6 months, it could be a year, whenever they have a chance to get out there, so they don't give you a time
It's
frame
at
with
least
that.
important for them, technically.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other is the pre-existing curb cut that they closed off where the old access point was. There's a utility pole there. I know Beta had looked at it a while back, and Mike Maglio had looked at it, and There is a couple sections of it that are closer than 3 feet from the back of pole to the back of the curb. So by closing that off and going through Mass DOT, Mass DOT didn't care one way or the other. They said they don't get involved with the town as far as who does what. It's if you go to fix it, you need a permit. But just from a safety standpoint, having a little bit less than the 3 feet between the back pole and the back sidewalk, we didn't feel that it was feasible to be able to close that off and still allow for the plows, the sidewalk plows to go by and, people walking there, give them a little bit more room.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, don't particularly have any issues with the Form H items here. I would just think the floodlights, if you guys can keep working on that one, because, yeah.
Like I said, we have the work order, so it's in motion. It's just a matter of when National Grid will take care of it, so we'll
Which is in
continue
their own
to.
time.
Yep. So, we'll stay on top of the work order. We know it's been issued. And now it's just a matter of time and we can let the board know once they're taken down.
Okay. Anybody else?
Make a motion to accept the Form H as presented for 400 East Central Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
And last, for general business, is endorsement of 519 Beaver Street. Do I hear?
So make a motion to endorse 519 Beaver Street, limited site plan.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we'll open up the 7 o'clock public hearing for Zero Upper Union Street Solar Project.
Make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening, Colleen DiBenedetto. I'm a development manager with Volta Energy, as well as for the applicant, VS Union Solar Smart LLC. We have proposing a ground mount solar facility off of Upper Union Street, a long driveway, and crossing the utility right-of-way to get to the facility. Its closest intersecting street is Ribeiro Drive. And tonight I have Rich Tabazinski from Atlantic Design Engineers to explain the project.
Good evening, Rich Tabazinski, and I'm with Atlantic Design Engineers. We did a full set of site plans for you for this ground-mounted solar array, so I'd like to just walk you through a few of the key points of the site and of the design. I'll go through some of the existing conditions of the property first. There is included in your package was a full set of existing conditions plans based on our survey work out there. But it's a 6.2 acre site that's highlighted in yellow here on this presentation plan. As Colleen had said, it's just north of Ribeiro Drive, the subdivision that's right shown on the very bottom of the page here. The topography of the site is fairly flat up until you get past the easement in the middle of the property, and then it drops off in some instances a little bit steeper in the back of the rear of the property. This area you can see on your site plans and on the presentation board is a 325-foot wide New England power easement that has an existing dirt access road going through it. It's been cleared in the past. It's a little bit overgrown now, but it's been cleared, and there's a string of overhead utility wires going through that easement right now. There's also some wetland areas in that vicinity that are shown in green here on the plan. Those have been identified by our wetland specialist, Goddard Associates, and survey located. And we did have one hearing with the Conservation Commission a couple weeks ago regarding the work that's proposed within the buffer zones to those wetlands. So that hearing has been continued for later this week. But just so you know, we did make that filing, and that process is underway. So in terms of the proposed project, it's actually identified in your zoning bylaw as a medium-scale ground-mounted facility. Medium meaning it's between 10 and 250 kilowatts. We're about, for the project, is about 200, plus or minus 240 kilowatts, so it would qualify as a medium-scale project per your bylaws. The solar panels are in the back rear of the property. The areas that's being fenced in for them is about 2.3 acres, so it's a fairly small project compared to some of those you've seen. The total development area, I would call it, is 3.2 acres, which would include the access road and clearing limits for stormwater and other measures. Brings the total developed area up to about 3.2 acres, which leaves about half of the property, in its natural state, or about 3 acres in its natural state. We had some meetings, or Colleen had some meetings and correspondence with the fire department, and that dictated the gravel access driveway that's being proposed coming off of Upper Union Street here, that leads all the way up into the project and into the development. About halfway through the array, there's a turnaround area right before the fence here, right before you get into the fenced area with the equipment pads. The access road will be 20 feet wide per the fire department's requirements, but in addition, there'll be a 50-foot wide, 50-foot long paved apron at the entrance off of Upper Union Road, and then it'll be gravel the rest of the way. Then it'll be a typical ground-mounted solar project that'll have, up front, there'll be a concrete pad with some transformers and other electrical equipment there. Utilities will be interconnected out at Upper Union Street. There'll be an overhead run of utilities till we get to the easement, and then they'll go underground from there, under the electric easement, and then into the solar array after that. As I mentioned before, the array will be fenced in with a 7-foot security gate. There'll also be, which is typical, we'll have a wildlife gap at the bottom of that fenced-in area, just to allow small wildlife to transport back and forth around from the surrounding area. The nearest, the project provides some very large setbacks and buffers to any residential areas. Your requirements in your zoning bylaw require a 75-foot setback from residential zoning areas, and that basically means that this property line here, we've held a 75-foot setback off of that, even though that land is not, it's residentially zoned, it's open space, but there's no residential development over there. But we've held that setback in accordance with your bylaw. In terms of actual houses, there's houses along Ribeiro Drive here, but the closest house to our, to the solar array is 545 feet away. So, and as you can see from here to there, there's quite a bit of vegetated buffer making up that 545 feet. So we feel the project's going to be well screened from, well, obviously from the roadway, it won't, and also from any residential areas. In terms of some of the engineering work for the project, we had to do very little grading for this access road. We're pretty much following the existing grade, except in this area, we're providing a swale for stormwater and a detention basin over here, but the road's pretty much following the existing grade. We've also had to regrade a little bit in the back, just because of how steep some of the slopes were dropping off. Typically, the panels want to be in an area that's 15% maximum in terms of the grade. So we've had to flatten out a little bit back there and provide also a swale and berm for stormwater measures. But other than that, there won't be any substantial grading on the site. Stormwater is being handled by several stormwater basins that are shown here in blue on the site. They're detention basins. They're not designed as infiltration basins. They're designed as detention, where there's actually some outlets to them, overflows that would discharge stormwater from them, but it would be at a rate less than pre-development conditions. So in your package, there was a full stormwater report that analyzed the pre-development runoff at various design points around the property, and we'd also analyzed that under pre-development and post-development conditions. There's very little pavement or impervious surface on a solar project like this, but we are clearing some trees and converting, some woodland up into what would be more of a meadow type of situation with grass. But that does cause some increase in runoff, as you know, by clearing trees like that. So that's why we had that's why we needed the basins to control that runoff. And there's also some recharge requirements from your stormwater management regulations and the DEP's stormwater policy. So we've had to provide some infiltration trenches around on the site to accommodate that. But we feel the project stormwater meets all the DEP standards as well as the town's stormwater management standards too. So in terms of the stormwater at the entrance, I should mention that this little paved area here, we've provided a catch basin and a small infiltration system to handle the stormwater from this paved area here, so that there won't be any runoff going onto Upper Union Street. So we've collected that and kept it on site in that particular area there. So I guess that's the gist of my proposal, or my presentation. What I had mentioned before was we have Conservation Commission process underway. We've also filed for a scenic road permit because of Upper Union Street being classified as a scenic road. Obviously, we'll need to clear an area here, and there's some kind of rough stone walls along this stretch of Upper Union that we'll need to remove to get the access road in. So we filed for a scenic road permit actually today, as a matter of fact. So that process is underway, and I understand there'll be some peer reviews coming and some reviews from your fire and engineering and planning here. So we haven't received any peer review comments or anything yet, but we'll address those when we do. And we'll just open it up now for any questions that anyone might have.
Okay, Thank you. I have nothing from you or Beta, Mike, so you have nothing on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I didn't get a chance to finish the review last week. I just submitted something earlier today, so you haven't received it yet, but I did get a chance to go through and had some
Okay.
comments.
That's what I kind of figured.
Actually, I complete my review on Friday, but I get it in pretty late on Friday, only because
Okay.
I just got
That's-
authorized
yeah,
to
so
get
the
started on it Wednesday,
The
but,
next meeting,
I'm not sure if Amy caught it before she left or not, but.
No, I'm sorry. We'll have it for your next meeting. That, it came in too late.
yep, excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the members of the board. Anybody have any questions?
Through the chair. How many acres total of the site are being kind of clear cut, heavily wooded areas being sort of clear cut to enable this project to happen?
Sure. Well, the total site is 6.2 acres. So the area that's being cleared for the roadway, any stormwater measures, and the facility is 3.2 acres. Some of that, as you can see here, is already been cleared.
Yeah, I
There's
think
no-
I'm looking
Yeah,
for
there's no
the
substantial
wooded
trees
area.
there, but it's kind of overgrown brush at this point. So, this area in here, I would estimate, quarter of an acre, half an acre, or whatever, so in terms of tree clearing, there's probably closer to 3.
Anybody else?
So I looked at the plans and I guess I'm not convinced by the hay bale check dams. It just doesn't seem like something that's gonna hold up over time. So I didn't know if you'd be amenable to either using like a stone gabion or just making the check dams out of earth.
Mm-hmm. You were looking at the check dams that are in the swales
Yep.
leading to the
Yeah, I know the
basins?
stone might not work so hot under the solar array, so maybe just build them out of earth instead. I feel like that just might be a little bit more long-lasting. That was really the only comment I had.
Okay, yeah, that, we can easily do that, yep.
So you mentioned that the closest house to the solar array is, what did you say, 500 something feet?
Mm-hmm.
What is the closest house to the roadway?
Oh, that would be down in, along this stretch here. The roadway. Actually, I can grab us a quick scale on this plan here. Looks like about 90 to 100 feet from the, like the house here to this edge of the roadway. You know, this one here like it's about 110 feet, 130 feet. And the next one's probably 140 feet or so.
A couple follow-up questions to that. Is that typically speaking, your solar array projects don't have a lot of traffic and they're visited if there's an issue or just to check in a couple times a year? Is that the plan here as well?
Yes, unless you wanted to address that, but that's typically it, yep.
Yeah, after construction and after the project is operational, typically, there's snow removal that needs to take place. And about 3 to 4 times a year, they need to go in for vegetation management to cut the vegetation between the panels. The projects are typically monitored remotely. So if in the event there was panels failed or some other reason why they would need to come in and service, they would use the road. But that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it appears from the plans that you're not proposing to cut down trees along the roadway access way. I mean, I know you need to do that in order to get in, but you're leaving as much buffer between the residential and the roadway as you possibly can without having to thin that, correct?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, like I'd mentioned earlier, this roadway here is pretty much just gonna follow existing grade, so we don't need to do a lot of excavation or fill that would expand the limit of work. And we have tried to leave a buffer that's a natural buffer of undisturbed wooded area there between the property line and the roadway.
Then I think my final question, until we see the reviews the next meeting, do you have any gates or anything proposed?
Yes, yeah, there'd be one gate that's proposed right at the entrance. That would be a double gate. I believe it's 20 feet wide, if I recall. That's the general access into the array, would be that one here at the entrance. Right here.
Okay.
To just.
There also,
follow up.
just,
No, go ahead.
there also would be there's another gate in the rear to get access to the stormwater basin, that's all.
So just to piggyback off of Beth, what we've done with other solar arrays in the past is we typically ask for a gate out by the road, just so the youth aren't encouraged to explore your dirt road and do something youthful. So
That's my question,
I think that's what we've done on the
Adults
other
included?
ones. I mean, you can be an adult, a child at heart, and you can be, you know, right? So I think that was the only, if I remember correctly, too.
What's that?
I have one more
Sure,
question,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I do have one more question. Your easement, oops, sorry. The easement that you have, is that an easement, what kind of easement is that? It looks like you are accessing on,
Oh, that's Engrid's easement.
it is,
That's
okay.
the power company's easement across their
All
property.
right, and you have the rights to use that apparently for, I'm assuming.
That was another.
Yeah, the power company has the rights to use it.
So, okay, so it's that kind, it's, all
Other
right,
way around.
other way around, sorry. Power company has access through your property? Okay,
Yes, yeah.
all right.
And we will need to show them these plans and make sure that they're okay with the design, that we don't interfere with their operations, but
Yep.
our road is tying into their road, it's all at grade, so we don't think that should be any issue with them.
Having recently dealt with easements across power company property, just get started on it quick.
Good advice?
I have, I just have a couple of questions. If it all goes through, it's up and running, did you, for where the transformer is that's going to generate, disperse the electricity, do you have a buffer? So I know it's like 525 feet away, but when things are quiet, you're probably gonna hear that humming. Do you have anything that's gonna buffer?
Well, at this point, no, we haven't proposed any type of sound walls or vegetation to screen that. We honestly felt with 500 feet that with probably a couple hundred feet of vegetation here and another 100 feet of vegetation there, that we probably wouldn't need to do that for any sound attenuation. But we could always throw up some vegetation along this area here to potentially block attenuate some sound in that
I
area.
would like to see something, only because, in a quiet,
Mm-hmm.
not saying much in the middle of the night, but,
A winter day when there's no foliage?
yeah, when things aren't, foliaged, it will be,
Yep.
it might, so, I appreciate that. The other thing is, where we've done in the past, we looked for bonds for decommissioning down the road and also for replanting when this is all said and done.
Okay.
So we can discuss that at further meetings. Other than that, I'm all set. Everybody else? All set?
Mr. Chairman, the next meeting is August 21st. Is that enough time to get through
August-
Concom and?
August 21st, okay, for the next meeting?
Go ahead.
When would we be able to see peer review and other town comments? Would we be able to see those prior to the 21st?
Yes, of course. You'll receive the town engineers and Beta's review. If they haven't already sent them, I'll send them in the morning too. You can take a look at them and get back to them on any comments before the meeting would be ideal. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm okay with the 21st if you want.
Yeah, that,
Make a motion to continue 0 Upper Union Street Solar Project to August 21st.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
Anything else, Linda?
Anybody have anything else?
I guess this is a question to Brian for the group. Again, can we get anything in our bylaws that has anything to do with limits on clear cutting, not wooded, heavily wooded areas? I mean,
Well,
it's one thing if we're, I feel like if there are no limiting factors or financial incentive to avoid doing that, we're not encouraging reuse of brownfield development, we're, not encouraging reuse of abandoned property or parcels that are already, would be an improvement to the environment if a site like that were to be repurposed. There's no incentive to avoid, like, fully clear-cutting forests to put in a solar farm. Or, we're seeing multiple projects, and if applicants are allowed to do this by right, it seems like we address stormwater management in our bylaws, but we don't address clear-cutting forests. It feels like that is detrimental to carbon sequestration, natural habitat, a lot of other things that are impacting the environment beyond just stormwater and making up for stormwater management in other man-made ways. And I'm not an expert in this, so I don't know how to propose any sort of change to the bylaw. I know, Gary, you have given examples from other towns that have, something written into their bylaws about tree displacement or management. I also know we don't want to necessarily discourage developers or, from developing on land or industrial use where businesses are contributing to the overall, taxes and getting money back to the town. But what is the benefit to a solar farm other than the obvious for, clean energy? Yes, but at what cost?
Quick question to what you're thinking. Would you look to change the bylaw just for solar farms or any development? Because that would be kind of a sticky thing, I think.
I think there's going to be some sort of incentive to encourage people to redevelop brownfield sites or like I said, parking lots or vacant sites or abandoned buildings or,
Back in front of the board a
all these
while
things
back.
that are already negatively impacting the environment before we're just clear cutting forests because it's easier. So I don't know.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, but, we just have to kind of,
Yeah,
I think
those
specific.
incentives exist in other ways. It's like what chapter 61A and B would be for to hold the land is agricultural, and then you get incentives for developing brownfields and things like that in terms of tax breaks and construction. So I'm not sure it's the way to incentivize it is to stop people from developing their property, and it's to encourage them to not develop it.
Right, or if they're gonna develop it, is there a way to, replace trees? I know we have a tree bank of some sort in town. Do we literally have something that says if you clear cut an acre of wooded forest, you must pay X amount, or that have this number of trees at this caliber replaced in town if they can't do it on their site to allow their development to happen? Like, there's just no incentive to avoid anyone from just clear cutting heavily wooded areas. Yes.
I don't think we have too many sites left that can be clear cut, though. I think that if you're going to put a bylaw like that in place, you need to, and I think the DPW GIS provided us with a map that shows what's left. I don't know if there is much we can do about that. I think the tree bylaw, tree replacement, what are street trees, is that subdivision bylaw, and then for
Yeah.
subdivisions, that's when we
And I
apply
think,
for certain
because,
tree.
like you said, the tree bank, it goes there, but it's not like it's gonna be scattered all over town. I don't think you're gonna see a benefit from that.
I
I don't know.
I
I mean,
respect what Jen is saying, I just don't know if it's,
Yeah, I'm not sure, like,
Really,
from
you
a
know,
development aspect,
Right.
it's feasible.
just,
think it's feasible
if there
either.
isn't much left to clear cut, it feels like we should be preserving it,
Oh, sure.
right? Like, it feels like we should be saving the little left of heavily wooded area we have in town for all these reasons, rather than just saying, well, there's not much left, so we can't control it.
I would say
don't
the
know.
town's made some efforts on that, though. We bought Schmidt's Farm, we bought the Maple Street Preserve, and that's exactly what those programs are set up for. Those were properties that were in 61A or B, that the town had right of first refusal, that they accepted it on. I mean, so,
I also
the
wonder.
programs are there, we've just
think-
gotta,
I think
if we
the-
wanna utilize them, we have to utilize them.
I think the town provided us the information based upon, I think the last question you had was on industrial properties. So are we looking at a larger span than other than just industrial? Are we looking at all properties in town that could potentially be developed, or, because I don't think.
I don't know. I also think there's a difference between, like, I guess what I don't know is like what kickbacks is the town getting from a solar farm coming in versus the obvious sort of revenue or, you know, taxes, et cetera, that are coming in from a business. Like, are they apples to apples if an industrial site is developed for a business?
As of right, I mean, it's not much we can do that.
Do you know
Yeah.
that, Brian? What are we getting from the solar farm?
Number one, I just wanted to clarify that this item is not on the agenda.
Oh,
And,
sorry.
and which, you know, you talk all you want, but I'm not, I don't know if I want to get too involved in the conversation, but I'm happy to, if, Jen, if you would want to send Amy and myself and the planning board chair an email that requests that we look into the issue, then we will put it on our list of things to do and then, or put it right on the agenda and have an open discussion about it.
Okay,
So that's,
Sure.
you know, be happy to do that.
yep.
Just
And-
give us a little time to think about it and know that we're gonna be talking about it at a meeting and
Yep,
we can go from there,
yep.
so.
And Beth, just real quick to respond to your question, is it all development? I think it's like all sites, like even on a residential site, I guess, like is there any reason why people would save trees versus just clear cutting an entire property? And I know it's like probably incremental impact, but I feel like it all adds up. Maybe there's nothing we can do about it. But, okay, I will continue that via email.
Yeah, just a short email that, you know,
Yeah,
get us discussing. Sure.
okay, thanks.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Good night.
Sorry, it was
Don't
otherwise
forget,
a
you
very
need
short
people
meeting.
to sign in here.